Hello and welcome to In the Money Media special presentation with Santa Anita Park, going over the Pick Six on Santa Anita opening day, which is this Friday. What date is that? That's going to be, my watch just did something funny to me. Friday, September 29th. Really excited to have Santa Anita back. Really excited to have this $1 Pick Six back. And that's where we're going to start our conversation with our two panelists today. Two people. If I'm betting racing in Southern California, I'm really not wanting to do so fully until I talk to these two men. We'll start with the man who's been on these airwaves a ton recently, covering Del Mar most recently. He has done a fantastic job for us on the In the Money Plus side as well with his Frankly Speaking column. Frank Scatoni, how have you been?
I've been hibernating, Pete, but you woke me from my slumber after the last couple of weeks. Del Mar was a pedal to the metal. It was so much fun. It was a great summer. Took a little freshening, and now I can't wait to start digging into some great fall racing. It's always one of my favorite times of the year.
I like that image of you, going into some sort of cybernetic chamber for 3 weeks and now emerging tanned, rested, and ready. We're also going to bring in a man who's been on these airways plenty this year, though not really since much earlier in the year. We're so glad to have him back. One of the most popular guests in the history of this platform. He's Duke Matties. Duke, how are things?
Everything's all right, Pete. I spent the summer in Saratoga, so you know how that went. Rain.
Not a meet that will. I have so many great memories of Saratoga, and a couple of them are from this summer. But I hear you as far as that goes. Turning attention out west to California, good for the soul in many ways. Obviously, we still battle through the raindrops on the East Coast as well. But there's something nice about having racing in the mountains, and there's something nice about having this $1 Pick Six back. I know, Duke, this is a bet you've lobbied for a minute. What is it you like about the $1 Pick Six?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's not a jackpot wager. That's the number one thing. Number two, I like that they went from $2 to $1 because you can play, a better ticket. You can get more coverage with $1. So that's number two. And I despise jackpot wagers. So I mean, I just don't think they don't show any. They don't really do anything for the true handicapper. I mean, they're more like playing roulette in Vegas. So for me, it's back to something that will get me interested in the races again, because California racing's been a little bit dull at Santa Anita at times, and I think maybe this meet would be good if we can get a few carryovers too and get it rolling. Maybe I can hit one.
The $1 seems like that sweet spot where you're still going to get carryovers. You can construct smarter tickets, and the jackpot bet's right. They're either random or they're benefits for the computer players, neither of which do anything for the likes of us. Frank, how about you? You excited? I know you're a very disciplined player. I'll see you go to the track and make, 1 or 2 bets a day. But will this $1 Pick Six get you a little bit more interested in attacking these horizontals?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, for the exact same reasons that Duke mentioned. The other thing that I want to mention is, too, if you talk to a lot of the old school players, one of the things that they loved about the traditional jackpot is a churn. You hit 5 or 6, you at least get something back, and you live to fight another day. You can reinvest that money into the next sequence the next day, and hopefully, if you hit 6 or 6, you can hit something pretty big. But if you miss that one leg, which seems to be the horse players' event, 3 or 4, 4 or 5, 5 or 6, at least you get a little something back that you can put back in your bankroll and, like I said, reinvest the next day. And I like the $1 minimum. I didn't mind the $2 minimum, but, like Duke said, it allows us to spread a little more, but without the main computer guys buying every single combination under the sun, because then it starts to get really, really expensive for them, more affordable for me. And that's where my handicapping can really shine. I feel like I can have a little bit of a separator there based on my skill set as opposed to just buying races.
Yeah, let's dive into this Pick Six on Friday. We start off with race number 4. We've got a $16,000 claimer. Fillies and mares 3 and up, going a mile. Short field here to get things started. Is this a case? You guys were both very friendly with my old pal, Jeff Sotman, very important guy in handicapping contest history. And I remember when a race like this would come up, what would he sometimes say? He'd say, short field, long price. Is that what we could be looking at, Frank?
Well, that's exactly what I wrote down in my notes. Sure, I wrote, to quote Jeff Sottman, short field, long price. I did not like this race at all. Going with that short field, long price theory, I looked really, really long and hard at number 6, Point and Shoot. I know this horse looks, really slow on paper, but I thought 3 things stood out. First off, Ian Crueljack is a very good trainer with the turf to dirt move, which this horse is doing today. Second, if you look at Crueljack's stats, he's 29% in dirt races. That's pretty darn good. And this horse has mostly been racing on the turf. I know the horse has 2 turf races, and she wasn't really any good. But, they were against better horses. So, maybe you just draw lines through them, pretend they never happened. And then, this is the lowest level for this horse. And then lastly, Pereira, in my opinion, more than any other jock on this circuit, he rides home some horses you look on paper and go, this horse had no shot. And yet, there the horse is in the winner's circle. So I was going to get a little clever. I was going to use Point and Shoot as an A just because I wasn't crazy about anybody else. And then I did think that number 5, Sweet Hello, the morning line favorite, it had a big shot, set a quick pace last time off a 3-month layoff, weakened to finish 3rd. She figures to move forward off that. She's drawn well. She could either be the controlling speed, or if Maldonado wants to kind of just sit back and stalk a little bit, he can do that with her as well. But I don't feel that good about those 2 horses. I could use a couple of other Bs underneath, which I hate to do in such a short field, but no one really stands out to me here.
6 and 5 on the A line. Not a lot of conviction. Duke, how about you? How do you want to light this candle?
Yeah, I'm similar to Frank. The race isn't much that we start out with. The races do get better as we go on. This race, I think, goes through the 5, Sweet Hello. If they let her alone on the lead, it's probably over. And even if she stalks, it might be over because Miss K-Line is not much of an animal. And if she goes to the lead and Sweet Hello stalks, I think it's just a matter of if Sweet Hello doesn't show up, it's probably the way this race goes. If she doesn't show up, then horses like Point and Shoot can win. Horses like no other can win. But otherwise, I think if Sweet Hello runs a race, she wins.
Gotcha. In terms of your pick 6 action, what percentage of it do you think will be going through Sweet Hello? How much will you reserve for those backup scenarios?
Probably 50% on Sweet Hello, I would say. Maybe a little bit higher. I would say something in 50 to 60% range.
Gotcha. All right. Some numbers to use to get things started there at Santa Anita. We'll move on to this 2-year-old Calbred maiden special weight going 6 furlongs on the turf. We will be able to get a little bit of a window here into the first-time starters through the double pool, though they don't necessarily look like the ones you want. But I don't know. I don't want to speak for you guys. Duke, what numbers are you looking at in race number 5?
Narrowed it down to a few here. The 2, Potito, the 7, Immelman, the 9, Nestucca, and the 10 don't hit me back. That's if they 1 through 10 stay together and no also eligibles draw in. But the one I like the best is Nestucca. Horse had a super wide trip at Del Mar that day, which I thought was one of the days that played towards the inside a little bit. And she was he was 6-7 wide, and doesn't really have the greatest rating for turf, but it's not bad either. So in this field, I think that would be my top choice. And I'm a little interested, and I haven't spoken to my man Edward Freeman yet. Don't Hit Me Bash has got some breeding. I don't know about why they didn't go to Square Eddie, because this horse has been bred to Square Eddie every year. They went to Mrazek. So I want to get his thoughts on that. Maybe that horse might be worth throwing in. And I talked about Petito. He got left last time from 2 1-posts at Del Mar. That's pretty tough to do as a 2-year-old, and got left last time. Probably should like the grass. Doesn't have anything major there to tell me he will, but that would be my 3rd choice. So 9, 10, 2, maybe 7, who is a horse that I might throw in.
You mentioned about the AEs. Was there one on there you were particularly interested in, or were you just thinking you'd look at the race again if one of those AEs sneaks in?
The 13 is interesting. See, that's the other Redham horse. So that horse is interesting. So that one I worry about if it draws in.
marooned there in the 13, but certainly it's notable. It's interesting turf breeding, right, with Warfront there on the dam side, being by Nyquist. Maybe one to pay attention to, if not for this race, for another turf appearance down the line. Frank, let's bring you back in to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I tried to dig a little bit into the pedigree stuff as well, and I do agree with Duke that number 10, Don't Hit Me Bash, probably has the best turf sprint pedigree in the race. That being said, I always like to look for, a first or second or third time starter when it comes to these, turf sprints. 5 furlongs at Del Mar, I don't mind so much, but as you start getting into, 6.5, I like to have that little bit of foundation. Nothing clever here. I thought number 2, Potito, was going to be pretty solid. Makes his 3rd career start for a patient trainer, so should be sitting on a peak effort. Adds blinkers. As Duke mentioned, breaking from the rail at Del Mar in those dirt races was not optimum. The horse broke slowly both times and really never had much of a shot. So I think the addition of blinkers will really, really help. And so will getting off the rail. I also have notes, Quigley and I, we keep a little database and whatnot. And last time this horse ran, we made a note that, when Brad Free did his write-up post-race, he thought that the horse should like turf, and that was corroborated with optics notes. So I got, two sources that I rely on for that kind of stuff to say that this horse should be just fine on turf. So I thought two Petito was going to be tough. I agree with the other horses that Duke mentioned. I'll just throw a couple of others out there that I thought could be a little sneaky. Well, he mentioned number 7, Immelman. A lot of speed, hasn't shown much stamina in dirt races, but that kind of speed is hard to ignore when it comes to turf sprints. And the Dam was a turf sprinter, so there is a little bit of pedigree there. And another one I was looking at was number 5, Whiskey Rye, one of 2 Tim Yak team runners. He doesn't look like much on paper, but he's only had one race. I thought he ran in spots in his debut. I thought he was another one who should appreciate a move to the lawn after that dirt race. He has a sibling who won 4 races on the turf, including 2 turf sprints. So I thought that, coupled with normal second out improvement, made him a contender. But this is a pretty tough race. Lightly raced horses with not a lot of info to go on, switching from dirt to turf. It could be in a big full field, so it could get a little crazy. But I was going to use number 2, Potito, as my lone A, and then my backups were going to be 5, 7, and 4, and then I have to throw in the 2 that Duke mentioned as well. So
9 and the 10 getting or the 10 getting. Excuse me, I messed that up. The 9 getting a little bit of a call from Frank, as well as the 10 who you mentioned a little bit earlier. Let's pivot to race number 6. We've got maiden claimers, Calbreds, $50,000 level, 6 furlongs on the dirt. Frank, we'll keep it with you.
Yeah, I wasn't super excited about anyone in here, but I did think the 2 Mark Latt runners made a lot of sense to me. So that's where most of my action will be. In no particular order. Number 2, Elton Sings Another. Cool name right there with a little Elton John, not tip cap to Elton John there. That's the first glad horse. Huh?
You know who did the first interview in North America with Elton John, don't you?
I think I could probably guess. Was it your dad?
My dad did the first when he came through New York the first time before he was a megastar. So that I'm definitely throwing that one in as a hunch play for the old man. But continue.
Elton Sings Another 6-1 in her debut against Better Animal. She ran half a race. She had to rush up into a fast pace. She tired. I can forgive it. I'm not crazy that race was won by an 0 for 15 maiden, but they were Calbred maiden special weights. These are Calbred 50s. So I expect this gal to fire today for a trainer who is really good with his second time starters. And then number 7, She's Just Fluffy, the other Glatt. This is her first start for Glatt. She moved over from the Wong Barn. She just had one start several months ago. She ran a decent third at 15-1. She's had plenty of time to mature since that race. And, Pete, one of my favorite angles is Glatt off a layoff, especially in sprint races. He can always get them ready to roll. And I particularly like it when he puts up a guy like Cedillo. Cedillo is coming off an injury. We'll see how he does, but he's going to be hungry. He missed most of Del Mar, an unfortunate spill early in the season. So seeing him come back and being hungry and maybe being aggressive in a spot like this, I think that horse has a big shot.
You are in tune with Glatt historically, and I think that's a good angle just to monitor early in the meet about how Cedillo does. You'll sometimes see these jocks on the comeback when they get their fitness back and they can go on some big runs potentially. Duke, how about you? Is it going to be between these at the top of the market that Frank is talking about, or can we pull in something at a bit of a price?
No, I think he's right on. Elton. I think Elton Sings another is a much better name than Elton in a dress. So
damn, yeah.
So I think Elton Sings another. Just the drop, like Frank said, he was involved in a fast pace. Horses that usually drop into these maiden ranks come off those fast paces. When they get loose, they usually just keep going. I see that here, unless she's just fluffy. The other Glatt is much better than her first race. She did get left in her first start. Did a little bit of running, but that race wasn't very quick. So I'm not doing anything tricky here. Just Is would be my third choice, but that trainer is a very, very low percentage guy. Hector Barrios sticks with it, I guess. Decent. I would go 275, nothing tricky.
All right. Race 7, $32,000 claimers, a mile on the turf, field of 10. What are your general thoughts on this race, Duke? One to narrow down, or do we have to cast a wider net?
No, I like a horse in here. And the good thing about this race is a lot of times these turf races are like merry-go-round races at Santa Anita. They just horses get out there and go where to where. And that's not going to happen here because you got horses like the 9, like Road of Love, who's got to show massive speed in this spot, stretching out. And the 1, Workday, who's got plenty of speed. And I think the 3 might show speed here in this spot. So I'm going with number 4, Lone Scout. Has had 2 10 posts at Del Mar, drops down to 32, just looks like a spot where he just fits perfectly. I think he can stay a little closer with Maldonado this time from a better post and sit one of those, sitting 3rd or 4th type trips and run by these speed type horses like the 9, the 1, the 7, and I think they're going to set it up for him. I think that horse is just going to sit absolutely perfect. And if I had to use another one, I'd use Numero Dix, Jeff Mullins, Hector Barrios. That horse is going to be running on late. I just think the 4 might get away from him before he can get there. So 4-10.
4 and sounds like that might be an exacta worth playing too by your reckoning, Duke, with the 10, to get up late for second maybe.
Yeah, you never know with pace. I mean, these guys all might rate, but I mean, I don't see a horse like the 9 rating. So especially with a rider that comes from Los Al. So I'm pretty confident they'll be pacing here. And I didn't even mention the 7, who shows speed too at almost every race he's in. So I just see pace here, and I see a horse like Lone Scout getting a trip, and if not, Numero Dix will get it.
All right, there you go. We did get a question about when this sequence starts. 5:30 Eastern is the scheduled post time for this opening day pick 6 on this Friday. Hopefully, you all will be joining us for that as well. Frank, let's bring you in to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, Duke makes a great point. It's always I have to remind myself that I need to make a paradigm shift after the Del Mar races into the Santa Anita turf races, because the Del Mar turf course, in my opinion, is a lot more fair, and it does, and it tilts more towards horses who can finish. You get a lot more honest paces there. So I'm always looking for the strongest closer at Del Mar. Not necessarily the case at Santa Anita. Like Duke said, a lot of these turf races can be merry-go-round races. I look for horses who can show a little more speed and sit a little closer to the pace. But, I still also like to find the horses who can finish strongly, especially in a race like this where, as Duke mentioned, there should be a pretty decent pace. I was with him, number 4, Lone Scout, makes the 3rd start of the form cycle after a very long layoff, drops to this low level for the first time. Plus, as Duke mentioned, stuck in the 10 hole against better horses in his last 2 starts. It still managed to run really well. I thought number 4, Lone Scout, was the horse to beat. But to what I was saying earlier, also looking for horses who will be forwardly placed. I agree with Duke that there will be a lot of speed in here, and 34 Coupe does have speed, but I like that the blinkers come off. So I was kind of envisioning a little bit of a scenario where maybe Rispoli could kind of just suck that one back a little bit, let 3 other horses go, kind of suck back, and maybe just, track those horses in a good spot, and then turning for home, that's the horse that'll get first run. So I was going to use number 7, 34 Coupe, also as an A. And then, you have to look at, the other off the pacers, number 3, Aurelian Man, certainly number 10, Numero Dict. And, you could even look at number 5 and 6 if you really, really want to go spready in here. But I do think Lone Scout is the horse to beat. And like I said, number 7, 34 Coupe will be my other A. Seeing the race run where, Rispoli, you can just suck back, and plus it's the house horse owned by Aiden Butler. So, you
I was going to mention that. It's, and
we had a Keith Brackpool runner earlier. Now we have an Aiden. It's like Santa Anita past and present going on.
I just noticed he was the owner. And not only that, just to add something on that horse actually, Rispoli is really, really good at making middle moves on turf. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, like Frank said, sit the first part, but then try to blow it open at some point and try to hang on. He's really good at that. And Papa Madromo had a horrible Del Mar meet, and he won some races at Los Alamitos. So he won 3 or 4 races over there. So he might be coming out of his slump. So that's a very good point on 34 Coupe.
Barn turning it around, perhaps. I've got you 4 and 7 on the A line, Frank. 3, 10, 5, 6 on the back line. Does that sound about right?
That does, yes.
Excellent. All right, let's proceed to race number 8. We've got some graded stakes action in the form of the Chillingworth fillies and mares 3 and up, 6.5 on the dirt, and a field of 7. Duke Matties, who's your idea of the winner?
My idea of the winner is a little bit of handicapping, and it's a little bit of a route, because I know the owner of the number 1 Clearly Unhinged, who ran probably on one of the most, I don't want to really go into it too much, but probably the worst days of racing probably that I've ever been at.
Yes.
She ran in the test, and that race was one of the worst things I ever saw in my entire life. I was standing at the finish line, and I just couldn't believe my eyes when the horse just couldn't.
Mel's a tragic demise, unfortunately.
And I had to watch the trainer, and I had to watch the owner, Bill Parcells. It was just it was really just something that really you can't ever control, and it was just something that I'll never forget. But anyway, in that case, I thought this horse Clearly Unhinged ran a hell of a race, because I was in the paddock with the owners, and they were super excited, and they're talking Breeders' Cup, which I'm surprised at. But so they have big plans for this horse, and she ran a hell of a race. She actually got in a little bit of trouble in that race, and when the Mel horse, she shied away. She would have won. I think she would have held off of Pretty Mischievous if the incident didn't happen. So anyway, I like Clearly Unhinged here. I don't love the post, but she's got enough tactical speed, I think, where Elm Drive will probably go to the lead, and Etta will stalk, and she can somehow ease out of that pocket and make one run. I like her. I mean, I'm scared of Ida. Ida's obviously the horse to beat in here, but 4 to 5 is not my style. And if I had to throw in a third, I'd throw in Lady T, because trips lately have been very strange. It's like, it's weird I know Mike Smith likes to give some of those wide, safe rides, but last time it was ridiculous where he was. He was so far out in the track, and he was like 6-7 path, and not sure what the hell he was doing. But anyway, that would be my third choice.
So looking at that one, 1, 5, and 7. Frank, let's bring the favorite up for discussion, Ada, who Duke mentioned. Are you with or against in this spot?
Yeah, I wish the post positions were reversed for Elm Drive and Ida. I really wanted to take on Ida in this sequence, because it's terrific as she's been. I mean, how can you knock a horse who's shown her body of work recently? I mean, when she won seven in a row or something like that, and she's going to get the perfect trip sitting off Elm Drive, but I don't know. I wasn't super duper impressed by the way she finished up that last race. Maybe it's a a case where she's, run a couple of hard races in a row and might regress just a little bit. She was a little shifty in the lane. She didn't really gallop out all that strongly, in my opinion. That being said, she didn't really have to. She won pretty easily. I don't know though. Just I'm left a little cold by that last race, especially if she's going to be such a short price. I mean, I think she's going to be shorter than 4 to 5 in here. So I don't know. The obvious way to look at this race is that Elm Drive is going to go, Ida's going to sit right off, and either Ida's going to blow the doors off Elm Drive, or they're going to duel, and someone's going to come flying late and pick up the pieces like Clearly Unhinged, or maybe even Kirsten Bosch, or even Lady T. But I was going to try and be a little contrarian here and go, you know what, Ricky Gonzalez is going to go pedal to the metal on Elm Drive. Juan Hernandez is going to think he's got the measure of Elm Drive the whole way because he did 2 back. Beat Elm Drive with that kind of like stalk outside trip. And, maybe Elm Drive sneaks away a little bit. Maybe Ricky, as they're leaving the backstretch, gets a little separation. And, this horse will be super fit coming out of that, Clement Hirsch, the 8.5 furlong race. I love that cutback, for an elongated sprint. So I was going to be a little contrarian here, and I was going to make Elm Drive my single in this race. And, certainly you could use, 1, 3, 5, and, Duke even mentioned Lady T if you wanted to, but I felt like planting a flag here with a horse that I think a lot of people aren't going to use because, like I said, you look at this race objectively, it doesn't really set up all that well for Elm Drive on paper with Ida right outside, figuring Ida's going to be breathing down her neck. But I don't know. I'll try to be a little, maybe too clever by a half in here, Pete.
We'll see. I mean, it just depends how the tactics could go. I could see. I mean, I think if I was giving jockey instructions for Ida, I wouldn't want to goof around. I would want to go to the lead. But how often do we see jockeys grab when in situations where we horse players feel that aggressive tactics would be better? How do you see the tactics playing out in here? Do you think Ida will gun, Duke?
Usually Baffert doesn't take a back seat, in these type of races. He usually goes. So I don't know. Do you believe Elm Drive will be 3 to 1? I thought that was a very low morning line, in my opinion. I thought Elm Drive. That's why I think Frank's got a good point. But I think in a pick 6, 3 to 1. I don't see that horse going off 3 to 1. I see that horse going off like 6 or 7 to 1. You know what I mean?
I think you might get more. Whatever happens in the win pool, I feel like that's the value you're going to get.
Right.
In the horizontals, especially. I feel like both of your top picks are excellent separators potentially. I mean, if you can beat this odds-on Baffert, you're going to be in very good shape. I mean, personally, after hearing this discussion, I might try to use both of yours and then just have Ida as a backup if I'm right. If I'm absolutely right everywhere else, I don't need to be a hero try to beat that one, but I don't need on every ticket based on the cases you guys are making. And
Frank was right that Ida was strangely running strangely in the stretch last time. I mean, I don't know what the heck she was doing. So something might be amiss there. I don't know. And I'm not taking that chance at 2 or 3 to 5 and probably 90% of the pick 6 tickets are probably single in her. So
right.
For me, it's a no brainer to take a shot at somebody, So you got to take a shot with somebody here and just hope, because that's going to make the ticket pay 10 times more than it would.
Yeah, and Ida, no stranger to physical issues, right? We're dealing with this 4-year-old, but who had a 400-day layoff earlier in the career and has now come and put up 3 big efforts, as Frank mentioned. I mean, just incredibly impressive when you just look at the bare form and figures going for the 8-peat here, but some reasons to take on. And I do sometimes think those subtle little things, how they hit the wire, what they do after the wire, that can sometimes tell. They can be touting themselves or touting against themselves for the next start. Of course, would it be the first time Bob Baffert has kicked sand in my face and stuffed me in a locker? No, it would not. But you gotta take some stands in this game for sure. One more race to talk about. Race number 9, Maiden Claimers, 62.5 level, a mile on the turf. When it comes to this opening day return of the $1 pick 6, Frank, how are we getting paid?
Yeah, this is a really cool race to end the sequence on. I thought it was pretty competitive. I have a little bit of a wise guy play in here. I thought number 8, Chief's Blanket at 12 to 1, one of 2 Doug O'Neill horses, was a little sneaky. The West Coast form looks a little dirty to me. First off, his 2 SoCal races both came against winners. Okay, so he was really never in it to win. He didn't have a great shot to win those races anyway. But, in both of those races, he kind of made a little bit of a move, which showed me that, the horse isn't terrible. And I expect him to do the same thing today, kind of track the pace, make that move. And he's facing much less talented horses here running for the tag in a maiden race, as opposed to running against winners in the last 2 races. When you race against that kind of competition, I think the horse will be fit, dropping in class, 3rd start of the form cycle, the blinkers come off. I just thought that horse looked super duper sneaky. I think the horse to beat, assuming the horse is fit, we'll have to see, what the workouts say. But number 2, 6 Magpies, comes off a very, very long layoff. He gets class relief. He ran respectably in a maiden special weight last November. He's a 4-year-old. He gets Lasix, gets an equipment change with the blinkers. I like to circle those final times in my form. And this horse, came home very, very respectably in this horse's first start in the country. Did run, like I said, ran in a maiden special weight and is now running for a tag. You don't like to see that. They don't typically bring horses here from overseas to run for a tag. But I thought that horse showed enough ability in that one race to be a major factor in here. And then, I was very spready underneath. I'll just throw out some numbers and, just so you have them. 1, 3, 6, 9, and 10. I all thought they had shots as well. But my 2 top picks were going to be the 2 and the 8.
We are going to get to Duke's picks in a minute. I just did want to say we had a quick question from Richard in the comments about the $3 turf pick 3. That's a cool innovation that's happening this meet at Santa Anita, something we'll be paying attention to in a lot of our coverage, in addition to this $1 pick 6. It's a bet that kicked off at Keeneland a few years ago, and I've seen some tremendously overlaid payouts in it, and that could be for a number of reasons we'll tackle in other forums, but we got that going on. Also, just wanted to give a shout especially to the folks who are watching live. We got a ton of live stuff happening on YouTube. It'll all be archived and put on, or most of it will be archived and put on our regular In the Money media feeds. But we've got Horseplayer Happy Hour coming up at 4:00 today. We've got a special Race Lens show looking at some of the Breeders' Cup preps with me and Matt Vagvolgi, and then I'll be back tomorrow with the Jeff Chapman and Scotty McKeever looking at some of the races on Saturday at Santa Anita. So whether you're watching through the Santa Anita YouTube page or their social media or our stuff here at In the Money, keep tuned to everything we've got going on. With those plugs given, we bring it back to Duke to ask him what he thinks about this nightcap, where contention certainly seems to run pretty deep.
Yeah, I'm wondering what in the world the owner of Chiefs Blanket was thinking. Frank makes a good point. I mean, don't we have a ship and win thing here in California where you ship in and you run in the spot you want to run in because you get a bonus? And they ran them against winners both times. Don't really understand.
They were made in claiming races, right? I mean, this isn't a book thing. This isn't there was no race in the book, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, even if there wasn't, you run maiden special weight at least, or you run against non-winners. But I don't know, whatever. The horse has a chance just based on, it was in terrible spots. It's always been in terrible spots. So anyway, I'm going to go. This race is interesting. The 6-horse Belmont Bill is going to be the speed of the race. Now, Belmont Bill, if you've ever seen him run at Santa Anita, usually opens up about 15 lengths on the backstretch. I don't know why, but that's just what he does. So we are going to have pace again in a turf race at Santa Anita. I don't think he'll win Belmont Bill. I've seen him stop, with huge leads and not even going that fast. So I don't think he'll win. That being said, it's going to throw a monkey wrench into this race because these races where horses open up, they get a little bit crazy because the chasers sometimes win because he stops so bad, so they inherit the lead, or a horse comes from way back. So this race could be nuts. The 2-horse that Frank mentioned, 6 Magpies. I did watch the workout on XBTV this morning, and he dusted a horse that was not a great workmate, but just absolutely, just dusted him by like 8 lengths in a 5 furlong workout. So I'm not sure why they would drop if the horse worked that well. And that first race against One More Bid, if One More Bid ran this race, he'd win by 15 lengths. So I'm not sure about that drop. That worries me a little bit, but I mean, I love the horse based on form. The other horse I like a little bit is Captain Choochies. Now, Captain Choochies, I can't believe Tyler Bays is back in California, which is a big surprise to me. But anyway, this horse has got turf breeding. He's never, ever been on the turf. Two foals from that mare have run, 3 have won, and 2 of them have run very well. And this horse has showed that he can run on the dirt a little bit. So running competitive figures on the dirt compared to the turf is usually a good sign. And like I mentioned earlier, George Papapadromo had a terrible, terrible Del Mar meet. Terrible. I think he was 2 for 80. And this horse, if he runs on the grass and doesn't even have to improve, he just has to run a little bit, equal or a little bit better on the grass. This horse could be a huge, huge price. I don't love the 11 post, but I've seen Tyler once in a while put these horses into a pocket type scenario, send them out of there and put them in, put them up close. And I'm just hoping that somehow that horse can get, if Belmont Bill goes on one of these tears, this horse won't be in such a bad spot sitting a second or third type trip. And maybe he stops and that one inherits the lead. So I like 2 and 11. Other mentions would be the 10 Auto Line, picks up Hector Berrios, which if anybody's been watching Southern California turf racing, Hector Berrios does a tremendous, tremendous job of saving ground and making one run. So he'd be my third choice. And that horse that Frank mentioned, Chiefs Blanket, I don't know. I just have to throw it in just because of the spots it's been in. So 2, 11, 10, 8 would be the ones that I would be interested in the last.
Terrific stuff, guys. Really appreciate that insight into race design. That idea that having that speed to potentially stretch out the field means that horse might be able to drop in from the outside. That's something a nugget you can use in this race and you can use in a lot of races in your handicapping. And then I think the key point for me, Duke, about Captain Choochies, with speaking of eccentric names, is at the price that one's going to be, I'm much less worried about not dinging the horse for the tough post. You'll be compensated, I think, in terms of.
I mean, it's got to be close to 20 to 1, I would think.
I would think that's probably about right.
Especially in a pick 6 scenario.
Yeah. Well, great stuff, guys. This is terrific. Looking very much forward to having you back during this brief but exciting Santa Anita meet as we can get the job done. And hopefully we can pull you guys in and sucker you into becoming part of our Breeders' Cup coverage as well. I want to thank our friends at Santa Anita so much for sponsoring this video. We're going to have another one tomorrow. That's going to be a live show starting at 9 Eastern. If you want to join us live, it'll also be archived on Santa Anita YouTube, in the Money YouTube, and you can get it on our channels in audio form as well. For Frank Scatoni and Duke Matties, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatal. May you win all your photos.